The surface of our world is known, mapped, charted, and civilized. But it is a thin veneer, a delicate skin covering the true dark heart of our planet. 70% of Earth is water, and of that vast blue expanse, we have explored less than 5%. We know more about the surface of Mars than we do about our own ocean floor. It is the last great mystery and realm of crushing pressure, eternal darkness, and temperatures barely above freezing. Down there, in the midnight zone, sunlight has never touched. It is a world inhabited by life forms so alien they defy our very definition of biology. But this fear of the deep isn't new. It is an ancient, primal terror. Our ancestors, in their small, fragile wooden vessels, stared out at that endless churning horizon and knew with absolute certainty that they were not alone. They knew that things lived in that abyss, things of impossible scale and unimaginable hunger. They didn't have sonar or submersibles. They had stories. They had legends. They had warnings. These were not just tales to scare children. They were the personification of humanity's deepest thalassophobia, the fear of the vast, empty, and deep. Today, we journey back into that primal fear. We disconnect from the modern world and plug into the ancient frequency of terror. We will explore the 6 most feared, most powerful, and most unsettling sea monsters ever chronicled in human mythology. From the world-encircling serpent to the silent, spectral giant, these are the entities that ruled the abyss.
Our first encounter takes us to the cold, stormy waters of the North Atlantic, to the sagas of Norway and Iceland. Here, sailors spoke in hushed tones of a shadow that blotted out the sun, a living island that would surface, luring men to their doom. They called it the Kraken. Unlike many myths, the Kraken was documented not just in folklore, but in early scientific and naturalist texts. The Konungs Skuggsjá, or King's Mirror, an Old Norse educational text from the 13th century, describes it in terrifying detail. It was said to be the size of a floating island, so large that sailors might mistake it for land, anchor their ships to its back, and build a fire, only to be dragged to a watery grave when the beast descended. But its most terrifying method was direct. The Kraken was a creature of singular, immense power, a cephalotod of truly cosmic proportions. Its body was a mountain of gelatinous flesh, its beak capable of shearing a ship's mast in two, but its true weapons were its arms. Countless, colossal tentacles, lined with barbs and suckers the size of dinner plates, would erupt from the water. They were not just limbs, they were sentient serpents, coiling around the hull, snapping the wood like kindling, and plucking screaming sailors from the deck one by one. And if it chose not to attack directly, its very presence was a weapon. When the Kraken submerged, it created a whirlpool so vast and violent that it could suck down any vessel caught in its vortex. For centuries, this was dismissed as fantasy, a sailor's yarn. Then, in 1853, a colossal cephalopod washed ashore in Denmark. We had discovered the giant squid, Archaeudus. Suddenly, the Kraken was not a myth, it was an exaggeration. The fear was real, the animal was real. Our ancestors had simply scaled their fear to match the sheer, terrifying scale of the ocean itself.
From the North Seas, we journey south and back in time, to the very cradle of civilization and the ancient texts of the Hebrew Bible. Here, we find a creature that is not merely an animal, but a primordial force of chaos, a being so powerful it is used as a metaphor for the untamable, God-level power of creation itself. We speak of the Leviathan. In the book of Job, God describes Leviathan to Job not as a creature to be hunted, but as a testament to God's own power. Can you pull in Leviathan with a fish hook? God asks, mocking the very idea of human dominance. The Leviathan is described as an armored sea dragon, a colossal serpent. Its body is covered in rows of shields, impenetrable scales sealed so tightly that no air can pass between them. Its eyes are like the rays of dawn, and from its mouth go flaming torches. Sparks of fire stream out. Smoke pours from its nostrils as from a boiling pot. This is not a simple monster. This is a living volcano, an aquatic titan. When it rises, the mighty are terrified. They retreat before its lashing. The Leviathan is the embodiment of the deep ocean's chaos, the Teom, the formless abyss that existed before creation. It is the counterpart to Behemoth on land and the Ziz in the air. To the ancient mind, Leviathan was the ultimate symbol of a world that was wild, untamable, and utterly indifferent to human survival. You do not fight the Leviathan. You simply pray it never notices you.
Our next entity returns us to Norse mythology, but it dwarfs even the mighty Kraken. This is not just a monster, it is a key figure in the end of the world. This is Jörmungandr, the Midgard serpent. Jörmungandr is one of the three monstrous children of the trickster god Loki and the giantess Angerboda. Upon his birth, Odin, the All-Father, recognized the immense threat he posed. He cast the serpent into the great ocean that encircles Midgard, the realm of humans. But Jörmungandr grew. He grew so impossibly vast that his body encircled the entire world, and he was forced to bite his own tail. He is the ultimate Ouroboros, the world eater, holding the very oceans in place. Jörmungandr lies in the deep, dreaming and waiting. His mere stirring can cause catastrophic tidal waves and earthquakes. His existence is a constant, simmering threat to all of civilization. He has one true nemesis, Thor, the god of thunder. One famous tale recounts Thor going on a fishing trip with the giant Hymir. Dissatisfied with small-time fishing, Thor rows the boat far into the open sea, baits a massive hook with the head of an ox, and casts it into the abyss. Jörmungandr takes the bait. Thor pulls, his strength so immense that his feet break through the bottom of the boat, planting themselves on the ocean floor. He and the world serpent stare at each other, venom and lightning in the air, the entire world trembling on the brink of collapse. Hymir, in terror, cuts the line. But this is only a delay. The prophecy of Ragnarok dictates their final, fatal meeting. When the end of days begins, Jörmungandr will rise from the sea, thrashing onto land and spewing his deadly, acidic venom across the sky and water. Thor will finally vanquish him, but after taking 9 steps, the thunder god himself will succumb to the serpent's poison. Jörmungandr is not just a monster. He is a living countdown to Armageddon.
Now we travel to the sun-drenched, treacherous waters of ancient Greece, to a place sailors feared more than any storm, the Strait of Messina. Here, sailors faced an impossible choice, a dilemma that has become a metaphor for all hopeless situations: to be caught between a rock and a hard place. On one side of the narrow strait lived Scylla, a monster who would snatch 6 sailors from any passing ship. But on the other side was Charybdis. Charybdis was not a serpent, nor a squid. She was, perhaps, something far worse: a living, sentient, inescapable disaster. According to the myth, Charybdis was once a sea nymph, a daughter of Poseidon, who flooded the land to enlarge her father's kingdom. Zeus, in his rage, struck her with a thunderbolt and transformed her into a monstrous bladder chained to the seafloor beneath a fig tree. She became an entity of pure, indiscriminate hunger. 3 times a day, Charybdis would suck in a colossal volume of the sea, and 3 times a day she would spew it back out. When she inhaled, she created a whirlpool of such titanic force that it revealed the black sands of the seabed. Nothing, not even the gods, could survive being caught in that vortex. It was total annihilation. Odysseus, in his epic journey, was famously forced to choose. His guide, the sorceress Circe, gave him grim advice. Better by far to lose 6 men than your whole crew. He chose to sail closer to Scylla, sacrificing 6 of his companions to her many-headed hunger. Charybdis was the more profound terror. Scylla was a predator. She made a choice. Charybdis was a force of nature. She was the blind, gaping maw of the ocean itself, the fear of an inevitable, impersonal end that consumes everything without a second thought. Our 5th monster remains in the Greek world, born from the same dark lineage as many other titans. This creature is the child of Typhon and the Echidna, a monster of nightmare logic. It is the Lernaean Hydra. While often associated with the swamps of Lerna, its domain was water, and its nature makes it one of the most terrifying aquatic beings ever conceived. The Hydra was a colossal, multi-headed water serpent. The exact number of heads varies, but most legends settle on 9. Its breath was a toxic vapor that could fell a man from a distance, and its very blood was a potent, agonizing poison. But its true, defining terror was its invulnerability. The Hydra represented a problem that could not be overcome by brute force. It was the living embodiment of a losing battle. Why? Because if you summoned the courage to attack it, if you managed to cut off one of its writhing reptilian heads, 2 more would grow back in its place. To fight the Hydra was to make it stronger. To resist it was to hasten your own doom. And as if that weren't enough, one of its heads, the central one, was immortal. It could not be defeated by any conventional means. It took the divine strength of Heracles for his second labor to even attempt the impossible, and he could not do it alone. As Heracles sliced off each head, his nephew, Iolaus, immediately rushed in with a blazing torch, cauterizing the stump before new heads could sprout. Even then, the immortal head remained. Heracles was forced to sever it and bury it deep beneath a massive boulder, where it is said it still writhes and hisses in the darkness. The Hydra is the fear of the unkillable, the regenerating nightmare, the problem that only grows with every attempt to solve it.
For our final entity, we travel to the seas of Japan, to a fear that is profoundly different from the others. This is not a creature of scales, fangs, or tentacles. It is not a battle of strength. This is a quiet, surreal, and deeply psychological horror. We are speaking of the Umibōzu, the sea monk. Imagine you are a fisherman. The sea is unnaturally calm, as flat and black as polished glass. The moon is hidden. There is no wind. Suddenly, the water begins to churn, but not violently. A shape begins to rise. It is not a beast. It is a shadow. A colossal humanoid silhouette, dark and smooth, rises from the depths until it towers over your boat. Its head is perfectly round and bald, like a monk's shaven head. Its form is indistinct, more of a presence than a creature. And then 2 massive, luminous, and impossibly sad eyes open in the darkness, staring directly at you. The Umibōzu says nothing. It simply appears. Then, it might do one of 2 things. It might simply sink back down, leaving the sailors insane with terror. Or, it will make a request. In a hollow, echoing voice, it will demand a hishaku, a wooden ladle or barrel. This is the test. If you refuse, the enraged yokai will summon a wave and capsize your boat. If you obey and give it a normal barrel, it will proceed to scoop the ocean and fill your boat with water, sinking you slowly and methodically. The only way to survive is through wit. The sailors must give the Umibōzu a bottomless barrel. The creature will try to scoop and the water will fall through. It will try again and again, becoming confused, and eventually it will tire and sink back into the abyss from whence it came. The fear of the Umibōzu is the fear of the uncanny valley. It is the terror of the silent, the spectral, and the weird. It's a nightmarish encounter that defies logic, a ghost story on the open ocean. From the crushing tentacles of the Kraken to the psychological terror of the Umibōzu, from the world-ending prophecy of Jörmungandr to the impersonal abyss of Charybdis, these monsters are more than just stories. They are cultural footprints, mapping the anxieties of our ancestors. They represent our fear of the unknown, the dark, the unkillable, the inevitable, and the just plain bizarre. The ocean was their last frontier, a place where their maps simply said, "Here be dragons." Today, we have our submersibles, our sonar, and our satellites. We have illuminated small corners of that darkness, but the abyss remains. 95% of it is still a mystery, a void of crushing pressure where our ancient fears can still swim freely. And perhaps, as we push deeper, we will find that our ancestors' imaginations were not so wild after all. We may just find new monsters, or perhaps the old ones were waiting all along.